Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Karen Doyle and I'm Operations Director of CTAM Europe. Thank you all for attending today's webinar and we're really glad you could join us today. We are pleased to welcome today's presenter, Carter Pilcher, founder and CEO of ShortsTV, who is with us today for the first time. And alongside Carter is our very own, there he is, our very own CTAM Europe co-chair, Lukas Kernell. And Lukas's day job is Liberty Global's VP Content. So today's topic is the impact of streaming and coronavirus on the film industry. We're scheduled for around 45 minutes. Carter will show some slides at the start, but it will all be mainly discussion based. So try and get involved and engaged with us as much as possible. As soon as the slides have finished, Lukas and Carter will get into discussion. And then if you can send over your questions, that would be great by using the Q&A button. All annual members are able to view the recording on demand on ctameurope.com, and we will send over, we'll share your details with ShortsTV, so they may be following up with you directly afterwards as well. So with that said, I will hand you over to Carter and Lukas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen, and hello everybody. Good afternoon. That is, if you're in the same time zone as I am. I'm speaking to you from Amsterdam. As Karen said, and as you can see on the screen, my name is Lukas Kernell, and I am fortunate enough to be co-chair of CTAM Europe, together with Lukas Kernell from AMC. Before I introduce today's speaker, I would just like to take the opportunity to remind you of the CTAM Europe Executive Education Program, which we developed together with INSEAD. This one-week program is specifically designed for senior executives in the connectivity, entertainment, and media industry. Unfortunately, this year, for the first time in our 7-year track record, the event had to be cancelled for obvious reasons. There will not be a class of 2020. However, we will be back next year, and you can be part of the class of 2021. The course will take place from June the 6th till June the 11th on the INSEAD campus in Fontainebleau in France. So please visit our website or feel free to contact me or Karen for more information. The focus will be on the impact of digital transformation on our society and our businesses, with special attention to the role of COVID-19 as an accelerator of the transformation that we're all going through. So I hope some of you will join me in France in June. I plan to be part of the class of 2021. Now, please allow me to introduce you to Carter Pilcher. Carter is not only a business partner of ours, but I'm also very proud to call him a friend. Carter's had such an interesting career, or has such an interesting career. All he has done before setting up his current business can easily fill 10 webinars. So I won't delve into Carter's past right now. Happily do that another time. Carter will speak about the impact of streaming and the coronavirus on the film industry. In a way, it's a sort of a mini version of the CTAM Europe education course, you could say. Carter is uniquely well positioned to speak about this topic. Not only, as Karen already mentioned, is he the founder and CEO of ShortsTV, which is a global platform for short film across theatrical, linear, on-demand, on traditional MVPD platforms, OTT platforms, direct-to-consumer. But Carter is also a member of the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, better known as the industry organization that is responsible for handing out the Oscars. Carter runs the tracks related to Oscars, amongst others, for live action short and animated shorts. So again, as Karen mentioned, we will follow up Carter's brief presentation with a chat, and I would invite you all to participate with any questions or comments or thoughts you have on the topic. Please use the Q&A button in the Zoom interface to do so. Without further ado, over to you, Carter.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Excuse me. I was thrilled to be here today, and especially thrilled to see on the list of attendees people that are dear friends, and it's a little bit like Old Home Week. In addition to you and Louise, the lovely Louise, there's Cornelia Schauer, Marco Fraser, Jeroen Bergman, Jeremy Maddox, lots of people from LGI I know, AMC, and even a few folks from ShortsTV. So it's kind of, sorry we can't see each other and tell good Lucas jokes, but I'm sure we'll be able to do that soon. I really am thrilled. Thank you all, especially those of you I know who know better. Thank you for coming. I just thought it would be helpful to take you through, just briefly describe what we do and kind of how we fit. We have as a company, a somewhat unique position in the industry. We both distribute shorts theatrically. We put them on TV. We're showing them online at all kinds of different formats, all platforms really. But because we've built in the United States the short Oscar-nominated short film release into such a big project, last year we were the third highest box office for an independent feature in America. That I thought we've become quite close to the American theatrical industry. So I'm going to just share some of the interesting things that have been happening over the last 6 to 12 months there. So we as ShortsTV are the first international 24/7 high definition short movie channel. We're available globally on cable and on streaming in India, on Ziggo in the Netherlands, on Prime Video channels with Amazon, on DirecTV in the US, and with TV Cortos in Latin America, and Megacable in Mexico, and most platforms across South Asia. We focus, as you can imagine, as a movie channel. ShortsTV really is a movie channel and really focuses on the industry side, great films, award-winning films, A-list stars, so that as you watch the channel, it feels like you're watching regular movies, except they're short. As a company, we have long-standing relationships with international film festivals, with international awards institutions, and film schools. And as I said, we've been the exclusive presenter and distributor of all the annual Oscar-nominated short films global theatrical release for 16 years. It was our idea, working with Magnolia Pictures, to try to release those in theaters. The first 3 or 4 years were a nightmare. We lost a lot of money, but over time we've built it into a release that is interesting to watch. Now you'll have to forgive me. I'm not sure how to change pages. Let's see if I can get that to, there we go. This is just a little bit to understand the Academy of Motion Pictures and how we're organized. There are almost 9,000, maybe a little bit more than 9,000 members. There's a board of governors. Each branch, there are 17 autonomous branches, which are really like little guilds. Within each guild, we set the rules for our own awards. So the actors branch handles 4 awards, and they set the qualifications for members of the actors branch and for the awards themselves, for best actor and actress and supporting actor and actress. I'm a member of the short films and feature animation branch. We set the rules for 3 awards, for the 2 live action and best animated short awards, as well as the best feature animation award. We've become, because of the animated part of the branch, we've become the second largest branch after the actors branch. Each branch sets their own criteria for the awards. Each branch adjudicates during the course of the year any problems with the awards. And then the Board of Governors, 3 governors from each of the branches, meets together frequently and agrees all the overarching issues. In the short film category, and if, Jeremy, you're thinking that you are planning to get an Oscar, the best place to do that is in the best live action short films, best animated short films, or best documentaries. There is, even though there are several hundred qualified films each year in each of the categories, it is a much lower barrier to entry than any of the other major film categories. As we look at what's happening in the industry, and this is taken both from my conversations within the Academy and also here in our company and the people we work with, what we see is, first of all, production has had a massive industry shutdown in terms of live action production. Animation production, of which I'm very much in touch with all the studios, is motoring ahead. We've already had several animated features that have been released digitally, but there are many, many more that are coming out. And in fact, in terms of animated productions trying to meet some of the shortfall, there is definitely a sense in which there is a much bigger investment in animations going forward. And then, of course, this growing audience for at-home content, TikTok type content, has changed some of the way productions are done. There is now a growing segment of content that is talking heads talking to each other. Lots more shows have moved to some kind of COVID safe type production environment. Everybody is doing their best to make shows. It's difficult, especially in live action. Some of the big features are going ahead. They're putting everybody into big bubbles, and you can't leave. But they're getting done. So production is slowed way down. There will be impacts job-wise for within the Academy. We're trying to raise money for charitable things. Actors are being impacted significantly. All the trades that make a motion picture get done, especially the ones that aren't doing TV are very significantly impacted, from runners to lighting crews and everything else. The impact for the industry is going to be enormous. Many people, whole teams are gone. They're not coming back. They found other jobs. It really is a difficult and challenging time in the industry. Theatrically, as you know, there are widespread theater closures. Reopening, the Bond movie is still scheduled to be released on the 2nd of April in the United States. But there are widespread theater closures. They're opening to some extent with reduced capacity. Lots of them have been shut down again. That is, we are in touch. We've been doing a number of virtual cinema releases with the independent theaters in the United States, giving them a chance to earn some money, and all of them have furloughed their staff and are making sometimes as much. I was just talking to a theater booker and owner yesterday. They're making sometimes £600 a week, which is something crazy and difficult to imagine. All of them have been experimenting with digital and streaming releases. And as you can see from Warner Media's recent announcement that everything looks like it will change permanently in this move away from theater releases and not really doing digital streaming releases. Within the Academy, we have been, it's a big thing for movie folks to draw a line between TV and movies and streaming. and until this year, that has never really been a question. But I would say Netflix, Amazon, all of their investments in movie production and even the big studios moves to start releasing theatrically are changing even the most diehard awards givers, and changing really what they think is important, and how we allow for that in the future. This year, in terms of the awards and ceremonies, we've delayed the Oscar ceremonies. We've changed the eligibility criteria so that a film that can prove that they had a theatrical release date scheduled but didn't actually get theatrically released is available to be streamed immediately. It's being streamed from the Academy website so that all the members can watch the films so that they've seen them and can vote. But almost no films that you will see at the Oscars this year will have had a theatrical release, almost zero. It's never happened before. Many films have been pushed outside of this year, so the biggest films are not even qualified. You will see this year at BAFTA and at the Academy Awards, very slim down numbers of films, and certainly films that most of us have never heard of. That doesn't mean they won't be great. Some of them will be fabulous, but they will be marketed much less, except if they've been on a streaming service. So it's a big change, and there's a lot of trepidation. There is also a very strong sense, as I said, the production industry has been shut down for over a year. There is a very strong sense of reality and of fighting forward and trying to figure out how to get the industry back on its feet, and keeping our fellow members of the filmmaking community alive and kicking. And so that's been a big change to everyone's theoretical viewpoint. It's just the necessity of keeping everybody working. There is in the press, as you all know, there is always a discussion. Are we going to move away from cinemas? And that's really, although it doesn't impact streaming so much. I think that audiences are still hungry for big screen movie content. The more we're seeing, the more audiences are at home, the more they want to go out at least some. Even Netflix, before the pandemic, had invested in theatrical space. Others are buying theaters. I think there will be an enormous change in ownership in many of the big theater chains, both in Europe and in the United States. And I think there will be a tussle over the next 2 years about how streaming and theatrical releases work and how far apart they are, or if they're done together. But there's a lot of understanding that people are willing to pay twice for the same content, and for sure you don't want to wreck that two-time opportunity to generate revenue. There is a fight going on amongst the big streamers in Disney Plus and HBO Max and Netflix as to who will survive, and so they're eating their own children. Some believe Warner Media's decision to release all 2021 movies day and date on their streaming service and in theaters will hurt them, and certainly it will hurt revenues. But I think it's a massive fight. It will shake itself out as theaters come back on. I think they will regain their position, at least some of their position. They may not, they may be owned differently. I think the people probably, Lukas and I were talking, probably most hurt are the cinemas that we work with, the independent mom and pop theaters in regular medium-sized towns or big cities that are used to showing art house type movies. Lukas's niece who is I think this is a really great thing, who we saw her short a couple years ago, has now made her second feature, which has been selected as Sweden's international competitor for the Academy Award for Best International Feature. Those kind of films probably, as independent, if independent theaters are as affected as some fear they will be, those kind of films will have less of an opportunity in the United States, I think. Probably still have an opportunity in Europe, but less. So it's both an exciting time. We're seeing more and more people watch short films than ever before. I think that's due to the fact that they've seen lots of the big productions and lots of the big series and have moved on into deeper into their content libraries on TVs and on apps. We've seen huge increases in the amount of time people are spending streaming. Both our test group in America had a 400% increase in the amount of time they were spending on our app, which was crazy and shocking to us in March, all the way through into the middle of the pandemic. So that was kind of exciting. And so we're seeing changes like that, but I think that we're not, and I think there will stabilize, but there will be, of course, big changes in where everybody is when we finish. Lukas, maybe you could ask me a few questions, and I can.
Sure. No, I actually, before we sort of go into the wider industry, I actually wanted to ask you what has the impact been on your businesses? You just mentioned the US example, where you've seen a massive increase. Now you are of course active not only in the US, but you're in Latin America, you're in Asia, you're obviously in Europe. We're working with you there amongst others. So have you seen, can you talk a little bit about what the impact has been in the various regions?
Yes, we've seen, so in Europe, we've seen, we've launched in 4 more territories with Amazon. So we've seen Amazon's Prime Video. We've seen enormous appetite in Europe for new, varied kinds of content. I really think that it's happening certainly as much in Europe as in America or anywhere else. Just this digging into your cable subscription, figuring out which things that you've never watched before, spending time watching them. So we've seen growth there. We've seen growth on our app. The little, as you can imagine, it was not comfortable to realize that some big Hollywood guy had raised almost $2 billion to try to do what we do a little earlier this year.
Yeah, this is of course the big failure of Quibi, or should we not call it a failure? Is it because you seem to have more of a positive impact going through COVID. It's hard to say, it's difficult to say, but Quibi and Jeffrey Katzenberg specifically blamed their demise primarily on COVID. So how do you see that?
Well, from our perspective, we've seen only more watching. It's mostly TV centered, but our view was that he really had picked the right idea, that people want shorter content, but he just picked the wrong execution. He was in markets where people have, Europe and the US, where people have 2, 3, 4 TVs. So they're, whereas short content, mobile first content especially, we're seeing in South Asia as a huge growth in watching, because nobody has a TV. Latin America, we see the same thing. We see enormous growth in short content watching off platform. VOD subscriptions are growing in both places. In South Asia, we're selling the channel as an a la carte. It's a service rather than a channel, but we're selling it as an a la carte service on all the DTH operators. We're rolling it out. We're rolling out a mobile version because they're a mobile first really in Asia, it's all mobile first. So we're seeing none of the things that Jeffrey saw, but we're positioned differently. We're more on TV in Europe and US and more on mobile in Asia and US.
Right. Yeah, Quibi was initially exclusively focused on the mobile, and only at sort of a last stage did they broaden out to encompass other screens as well. Are you going to see some of the Quibi? Are we going to see some of the Quibi titles showing up on Shorts?
We're talking to them about some of them, and we'll see. They spent crazy amounts of money. They have not many rights to them, to their exclusivity. And so it's a very difficult process. About the only thing that there is to buy are the rights to develop future series from the intellectual property they've developed. It's you know, Lukas, even someone as imaginative as you, I think, would struggle to spend money the way that they did. It's a very tough task to spend that much money in that quick amount of time and come away with nothing.
Right. Given the changes in the rules to be eligible for an Oscar, are we going to see any Quibi titles showing up at the
No, none of them were proper films. They did all series, all very short series.
Yeah, that's true.
And they must tell a story. And in fact, you know, we see that as a difference, as one of the things that audiences are looking for. One of the reasons Quibi's content didn't work is series without a point and that are engineered to be 10 minutes long no matter what, rather than to tell the story in the amount of time that's needed, really don't work. You can make a 30-minute or a 60-minute or a feature film normally a prescribed limit, right? But when you're telling a full story, you don't see every single feature film coming out and they're 91 minutes, right? Some are 120 and some are, so when you're telling a complete story, it is very difficult, even if it's short, it's difficult to say it must be a certain length. When you're telling an episodic story, of course, it's never going to end, and so you just move things in and out of the story and push them into the future. It's a more simple project for a writer, for a director to figure out how to get to 60 minutes exactly, or 56 minutes or 52 minutes for an episode, because they just push the key things and put hooks to the next part of the episode. Whereas with a story, with a complete story, you have to decide, okay, this thing is not going to be in this story anymore. And he really tried to create these episodic 10 minutes, but they didn't have any impact because he created them as pieces of a movie, of a larger narrative, rather than using the rules of TV. You know, a movie guy doing TV didn't really know how to do it, focused in on the wrong characteristics of the medium, and really came up with a product that didn't fit either medium and really wasn't satisfying to audiences in either way. So we see, you know, the reason we think shorts are actually growing in their consumption is that people are impacted. They laugh, they cry, and they're done, right? Right. They're shocked, or they watch it again. You know, shorts. They blow people's heads off. They shoot them. They fall in love. They tell you a really bad joke, and then it's over. So there is a much higher intensity level, but it's much more complete.
Very fitting for these times where everything seems to be speeding up, outside of what's happening with the corona, but it is all speeding up. I think so. We're getting a couple of questions in here, and I think the first one that came in was from Andrea, and I think we've answered that. Unless you would like a bit of a deeper take, Andrea, please let us know. Jeroen has asked a question to you, Carter. I shall just read it to you. and to everybody on the webinar. Carter, have short film and animated feature categories inside the Academy been impacted by the persistent demand for fairer representation of women and people of color in the same way as we have seen in live action features? And if so, what has been done to accommodate this demand?
Well, thank you, Jeroen, for that. It's a good question, and it's something that is a very big focus within the Academy. You know, it's I think artists and producers, directors are very, very aware that that being in front of the camera and behind the camera are both equally valid places, and they're places that women and minorities have struggled to gain representation. We have worked, as I think every company has worked very hard to try to promote men and women within the Academy. There, as you know, several years ago, there was a lot of complaining because they did an Oscars So White campaign because no one was represented in any of the nominations other than the majority ethnic groups. So there is now very much we've gone through a 2020 project, which is to increase the membership within the Academy, to change the number of representatives from across the spectrum, including international members. So the Academy 4 years ago, when the Oscars So White campaign occurred, was at not quite 6,000 members. In that time, we've added another 50%, over 9,000 now members, and many of them, at least, the target has been to bring in at least 20% of the membership that is diverse. So the Academy has worked very hard to bring in members that are diverse, and now, as part of this most recent set of issues that came out of the George Floyd police brutality issues in the United States, they have set clear guidelines that will be implemented over the coming years that will require every picture that is nominated for Best Picture must include a significant representation either on the side that is produced, the production side, and in front of the screen that is from minority backgrounds. So I think the Academy is very concerned. They realize that we're in a unique place, that we're putting forward the face of not just America, but of the world, that it has been a very American, Hollywood-focused group in the past. And so they've are working very hard to expand both the membership and the requirements for international and minority participation in American movies.
And that has come through also in the short film category.
It is absolutely, every film that's qualified will have to have that. The great thing in the short film category is that of the live action short films, we have the highest number. In fact, last year, 50% of the shorts were directed by women.
Right.
Last year, of the live action titles, 4 were international, 1 was American. The animations were roughly somewhere in between that. But the winner, of course, was a African-American football player, Matthew Cherry, who produced the winning short animation called Hair Love. And documentaries were all directed by women this past year, or produced by women.
I'll come back to the Academy a bit later, but I want to give some attention to the questions that are coming in. We briefly touched upon it. This is a question from Shah. We briefly touched upon the rights situation with Quibi, but maybe you can expand a little bit more about it. Because Shah was specifically asking, will somebody negotiate the rights to Quibi content and sell the package? Will that be ex-Quibi XX? Will it be the original owners? Is it going to fall back to them? And maybe also interesting to point out how Katzenberg had structured the rights acquisitions with the several windows that he had?
So this is something that those of us who have done TV would never do. But this is just prefacing what I'm going to say. None of us would ever do this. He structured but he's a movie guy. He wanted all these big Hollywood stars to participate, and he felt every single one of these projects needed to be from the best people in the world. He felt that even if he was paying them $100,000 a minute, that they might not want to participate. And so he would allow them to keep all the rights to their production. He would take a 7-year license. The first two were exclusive. And then after 2 years, they could take the productions back and release them as a feature. And he only retained a non-exclusive right to the project for another 5 years, and only released it and the exclusivity that he retained was as short form. So that any one of his series, the 10-minute release, he retained the right to, but they could release it as 30-minute pieces or 60-minute or as a full
feature. Yeah.
So most of these things he launched them. We've looked at them. You have maybe a year of exclusivity left, and one series they've spent 15 million on. And so our guys go say, well, yeah, that's, featured prices. And now we could give, $50,000 to $100,000 for the whole thing. Yeah. That's a TV price. And they, don't even really know how to handle that. They have a big fancy investment bank, which some folks know, LionTree, handling their assets. The discussions are definitely mismatched, right? It's one group of people holding the crown jewels think they've got the crown jewels, and another group that says, yeah, I'll pay 10 cents for that one.
Yeah. So as you said before, it looks like it's unlikely we're gonna see them anytime soon on your platforms.
Yeah.
Got another question coming in, which is about the theaters. Whether you can please elaborate on why you think people will go back to the theaters. What's going to be attractive for people to come back?
I think the entire experience that happens in the theater, it may not be what we're all getting excited about being at home and building better home cinemas. That's all happening. But you can never substitute the fun, the size, the sound, the experience of being in a cinema. I think it's so my sense would be that there will be a return to big cinemas. The ones where cinemas here in Europe. I think all across Europe, in Amsterdam, they've taken that beautiful old wooden cinema downtown and
Shinsky.
Yeah, and put all those fabulous, and put big seats and blankets and all that. I've heard, and they're doing that all over the place. And I think that that's a kind of an exciting way to go to the cinema. You can eat, you can relax, you feel comfortable, but you're with an amazing group of people and you're socially distanced, and you can see something really fabulous. So my sense is that big screen viewing and with an audience. There is, as a guy who has for the last 16 years released motion pictures every year, you go in and every screening and listen to an audience, and there's a totally different reaction in the audience when they watch a motion picture than when they see it at home.
Yeah. So it's really going to be about the whole package and the social experience that takes place in that context.
That's my sense.
Yeah.
Others may disagree, but I think that's why Netflix is very interested. They bought this big theater in Los Angeles, and they're starting to look at big single art house theaters around the world, just so they can stage events, because people love events.
So that wasn't primarily in order to qualify for the Oscars. It had a deeper purpose than just that.
It absolutely. I think Netflix is building an enormous catalog, and what is it? They're doing Back to the Future, kind of. They're looking at how do we now? Oh, there's this cool thing, the Netflix guy said, called a linear channel. Maybe we should try one of those. Let's see what happens if we have a linear channel in France. So they've launched Netflix as a linear channel in France to see, maybe that there's a different way you can curate it. You can get people to see it. There's a different watching experience. And sometimes audiences just want you to tell them, this is great, and here's another great one. And they don't want to have to slug around and pick. So I think Netflix is also, and all the streamers are going to do exactly what all of us have done. And that's look at linear platforms, cinema platforms, all of them together, and say, what's the best experience? What way can I always be with my audience and give them the best experience possible?
That's actually a good segue into another question that we just got. So we briefly talked about Quibi. Quibi obviously did not make it. There was an earlier initiative by Studio Canal where they did I think they called it 10 by 10s, where they did also serialized shorts. That one didn't really take off either. The content is now available under the Black Pills brand. And this feeds into the question. So Netflix and Amazon don't really have a category of short movies either, specifically in their proposition. You seem to be doing really well in your global quest to get attention to shorts. Do you expect Netflix or Amazon will change their approach, or do they have some fundamental reason to stick to the long form content that they seem to be focused on primarily?
So the answer to those two, to that question, Netflix and Amazon are pursuing different strategies. Netflix is investing in some shorts, and if you know shorts and are a shorts person and you go to the Netflix platform, you can see some pretty good shorts. They've done some amazing animated ones. One of the series is called, I think it's Sex, Love, and Robots, something like that. But they're very good, amazing. They're made by some fabulous teams. One of the guys who produced them is the he's done some features. He's in LA, done some features, and a big games producer. But they have plenty, and most kids material is short. And so they're developing more and more kids animated short form content. So those are, so Netflix is developing it. They don't have a way to serve it. And Amazon, on the other hand, isn't developing much content at all, and they're not really developing shorts. And that's why they're launching us in territory after territory. I think we're going to be launching a lot with them, and we're providing that service for Amazon. But let me just say this: when people think about short content, I think it's a misnomer to look at the Black Pills, which was a little foray by a big company, and even Quibi. Short content. What is the most popular short content that has ever existed on the face of the earth? Well, it's called a song. Popular songs are now all short. They used to be symphonies. And who listens to a symphony anymore? We all listen to songs. Songs are 3 minutes, 5 minutes. That kind of content works. YouTube is having a terrible time with their short content. Almost nobody watches YouTube, right? We all know that. That and TikTok's short content has bombed. So the question is, how do you take, so obviously audiences are not only listening to short content all the time, but they are watching short content, and the younger they are, all the time. The question is, how do you monetize it? And we are working very hard. You know, it's a lot of experimenting and a lot of putting everything on every platform and seeing if it works, and if it doesn't, what does work and how to make it work. Black Pills is too expensive. They rolled out with an app that was expensive, and it's too limited. We launched our test version of our app, mobile app in the United States, with 4,500 titles. It's different. What we see, and we base the app, the algorithm, basically on Spotify. So if you like it, you can like it. And if you don't like it, you can skip it. And the algorithm builds a playlist of songs. You can create your own playlist. You can pick a title, a genre, and a subgenre. You can pick a mood. You can watch happy films, angry films, horror films, or animated adventures, and watch hundreds. And so we find that the user audiences have a very particular way of watching short content. It's not the same as sitting back and watching a movie. It's leaning forward and skipping and liking and getting involved in the content. That's really has pushed our online type experience. Whereas we create for our TV platforms, we work very hard to create a feeling like you're at a film festival, so that you can sit back and somebody has curated a group of really great films around a particular topic, or with stars in them, or the ones that won the Academy Awards. So in each platform, we think that there's a very different way of curating, and that short content, it's a bit of an experiment, but really and truly, we find that it works if you get it to the right audience in the right way.
Right. It's all very, very, very interesting, but I'm afraid we've already gone over time. I still have a bunch of questions, but maybe we should do a second session of this in 2021.
I think at INSEAD.
And at INSEAD. Yes, we can do that. Again, I will be attending this year, and I would love for others to join. Just one final question that I had been asked that I could not refuse, and I'm not sure you can even answer this question. But do you have an idea, or do you have a tip as to what is going to be the Best Film Award winner in 2022? Or are you not allowed as an Academy member to talk about that?
This is the first year that none of us have any idea. I was going through the Academy website, and there are no titles that I've ever seen before.
Wow.
It's bizarre. So I'm going through, except on Netflix. There are a couple that I've watched on Netflix. All the rest of them I've never seen. So I think this is really and truly going to be an amazing and quite new kind of experience for everyone, for the Academy and for audiences, because you're not going to see we're going to all, when we do name nominations, unlike before when most of the 10 Best Picture nominees have been named, most of us have seen half of them. And certainly heard about that many. Now nobody's going to have heard any of them, and it's going to be a rush to streaming services to try to figure out if any of them are worth betting on.
Yeah, well, let's hope 2021 will be a new experience for all of us compared to 2020. We can certainly need it. Thank you everybody for attending. Thank you very much, Carter, for taking the time to speak to us. And I think, Karen, you will have some final closing words to share with us.
I will just jump in and thank you both. It was really, really interesting. It was a really great session. It was good fun. And I think we could have all sat and listened to you all day. I really don't think anybody would mind have been doing that. And I almost went to grab a glass of wine at one point to carry on listening. So thanks everyone for joining us today. If you are a member already, you can view the recording on the members only section of ctameurope.com, which has all the past webinars and podcasts from ourselves and CTAM US. If you're not a member, I'm going to send out details to everybody about the executive management program, which Lukas discussed, and hopefully you can join our class of 21. So as a member of CTAM Europe, you can join us every 2 weeks for webinars. We've got another one next week, which will be the last one for 2020. And this is Simon Murray from Digital TV Europe on the global growth of SVOD platforms. So for now, back to Carter and Lukas. Thank you very much to both of you. Really good to see you both. Thanks everyone for joining and have a great week.
Thank you and be safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.